Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot, and welcome to a reading about what is going on in your Divine Masculine's mind and in their heart right now. So, it's a question that I've gotten here somewhat regularly, but we're just going to really take a look at it today and just kind of dissect it. Yesterday, we did one that was kind of all about you. Today is a little bit more all about them, but of course, both of these very much relate to one another. It'll be a general reading as always. It will be for this collective. So if you find that you may be part of this collective and you haven't subscribed, this might be a good time to subscribe. Or you may also just want to take a look at some of the older videos and get some other messages that are also going to be relevant for you, because these are all very much connected. So let's start by looking at what's happening in your person's energy right now. What is happening in that Divine Masculine's energy? You know, we did a Divine Masculine Messages one not too long ago that kind of dug into this. But we also know that things shift. And so we're going to see kind of where they are right now. So we see some fearfulness. That's the Fool in reverse that comes out first for them. And it's got a feeling of them not wanting to jump into something because they feel like they made a mistake. Let's see here. I dropped one, but it fell face down. Yeah, they made a mistake here, but I feel like they're hearkening back to some mistake from the past. It's not necessarily a mistake that they've just made. All right, so here's what we want. Let's see here. So, okay, this is something that it's got that sort of, you made this bed, now you have to lie in it feeling, like they know that about this, and yet there's a little bit of a feeling of them wishing they could kind of point the finger somewhere else. It's interesting there because it feels like they are trying to compartmentalize that mistake and kind of push it away so that they can move into a different place, so that they can think about things a little bit differently. So some of them are trying to ignore something uncomfortable so that they can stay with something that is more comfortable. So they can stay with a concept or job, person, maybe that third party, not make things change in some place. They don't want to rock the boat because they're looking for comfort. But they also they have something inside them that doesn't seem like it's willing to be quiet, that causes them to want to do something different. And it's a fearless sort of energy that wants to come out in the midst of all this fear. They are, with this Death card in the reverse, kind of trying to keep that down. So interesting energy coming from them. There's a lot of conflict in that because they've got this feeling of, I've made a mistake. That's what keeps them wanting to keep this energy down. It's not quite pure passion energy. It's swords energy. So there's element of communication to it. It could be them wanting to make a communication to you and feeling like they really kind of just can't do this right now. Brother of Wind goes right along with this Page of Swords. It's like a Knight of Swords. The Brother of Wind is very much that feeling of kind of that dragon slaying energy. So like I said, not just pure passion, but it's a desire to, like, they feel like, what could go wrong? You know, I mean, there's an element to them. Okay, so if you watched yesterday's extended, you know, and it was talking about you putting yourself out there and how you might evaluate such a thing. One of the questions that you ask yourself is, what is the worst case scenario, and am I prepared to deal with that worst case scenario, you know? And so here, this is not quite as thoughtful of an approach to that. We have the Magician card, or I'm sorry, the Magus card. This is, Magus card is the equivalent of the Magician card, and it has that sense of manifestation and feeling like they feel like they can do pretty much what they need to do right now. Not necessarily a feeling of being able to do anything, but with this energy, they can build anything. They could be anything, but they don't necessarily want to. Like, again, we see them kind of trying to get in the way of whatever this is and stop it from building, and they want to quell it to a certain degree. This is that feeling of kind of willing to limit themselves, willing to do self-destructive behavior in order to quell this energy. So the fact that it's there and the fact that they're willing to work this hard to quell it, you know, it feels like they're using a lot of energy on this situation that actually just opposes themselves. And so they're kind of, it's an inefficient usage of their energy. They're going to have some change though. And I feel like they kind of know this to a certain degree. And it's not just because they've had that increased ability to kind of see what's happening with themselves, but they just kind of know that it's time for a change. For some reason, time feels like it's coming soon. And here's the thing. We know that there is, in a few days, we know that we've got our last Mercury retrograde of the year, and that is an energy of things kind of getting mucked up in a lot of ways, but it's also, you'll see people returning, that this could be the eminent feeling of that return, like they know they're not going to be able to stop themselves, even though there's a sense of trying to stop themselves. Thing is, they're unhealed, but they don't want to have they don't feel like engaging a huge challenge right now, but they're already engaging a huge challenge by disallowing themselves to have this communication or move forward. And it really does feel like they're keeping themselves silent. With this Temperance card, it's because they feel like it's the best course of action. They feel like they're not really ready to move forward with something right now. And that something does feel like whatever this communication is up here, that could very well be communication for you. And these cards are getting kind of intensive, and it's kind of reaching into the question that we're asking. It's really kind of what is going on in their mind. So this is the energy that they're in. And it's going to meld now with the second question, kind of, that as we look at it. But before I pull these cards, I just acknowledge that I'm already feeling the energy shift from what's the energy that they're in to what's happening in their mind. There is a little bit of a, this is almost a peacefulness. Like it has to do with them not wanting to struggle, or just kind of saying, you know what, I give. This is something that I'm tired of fighting. You know, there's a feeling of them being tired of fighting and being tired of having the anxiety around it and the constant have to push feeling, you know, with that. It's difficult, but they're finding some sort of, like almost an internal almost a reconciliation, but it is not necessarily final reconciliation. So there's, with this Temperance card, you know, it has that feeling of them being unhealed. So if they do lose this battle and have to reach out to you, and we know from yesterday's conversation or from yesterday's reading, there may be some of you reaching out to them and them finding the whole thing, they've been trying to run away from it. They're trying to run away from that. Now, you reaching out to them could have one or the other impact. It could be that it causes them to run away, or it could be that you hit them at a good time and it causes them to use the energy around some of this reconciliation that they have. They're moving toward it. They've been moving toward it. I wouldn't say they've made a full reconciliation in any place just yet. So we've got the Father of Earth. Well, this doesn't bode very well. What this feels like to me is if you reach out to them, they are more likely to kind of regress in and have a setback of their own, where they kind of go into themselves and don't necessarily think they're worthy of the situation. So not necessarily that they don't respond, or they don't even respond in a positive way, but it still has this impact of them thinking, they're doing some overthinking with this. They're doing some overthinking and trying to decide what their place in this is, and whether they deserve to be happy, or they deserve to be loved or liked. There's a lot of even just about being liked here. So let's go ahead and dig a little bit more deeply into what's happening in this person's mind and in their heart. You know, what are they thinking? How are they feeling? Okay, so we've got the Seven of Wands. That is a reasonably confident but curious Seven of Wands. I get more curiosity off of that card than I usually do. So we have King of Pentacles. Huh. Okay. And then we have the Three of Cups. This is really kind of compartmentalization, but maybe at its best. So they've got something that's kind of catapulting them into the ability to make an action even though they've got this energy of trying to stay away from that action, and in the background we know that there's an erosion of their feeling of deservedness, or deserving this. There is also, they're watching the whole thing take place. They have a greater awareness of what's happening, but they're, remember how we were saying over here that there was this feeling of kind of wanting to maintain something that is like maybe that third party energy that makes them feel confident or makes them feel bolstered up, makes them feel, not necessarily that it bolsters them up. I think that's the wrong choice of words. That's not expressing the feeling that I have in me. It's got more of a sense of them being willing to stay with a third party situation. So whether it's a person or staying aligned with a family member or staying within a job that doesn't necessarily fulfill them. And we've established that, but it gives them some sense of stability and a feeling like they have control that that allows them to maybe jump off and try something new. So it's that very feeling of what you might feel of as kind of a limitation that comes from this third party, but that may actually be where some of their strength and ability to move forward comes from. So that's interesting, just something to kind of think about, that some of the energies being generated by the situation around this third party are not decidedly negative. So we've got this Four of Fire that is about them wanting to maintain some sort of stability. It's like the Four of Wands, and again, wanting to maintain some sort of stability with regard to this. And then the Ten of Fire, which feels a lot like not being sure they don't know how long they're going to be able to maintain this. So it feels like for now they could say, well, I'm relatively comfortable with what amounts to this third party situation because it offers me some form of stability. I'm able to maintain contact with my family because I maintain harmony with somebody who is in it. Or I'm able to see my children because I'm able to maintain harmony with the person that I co-parent with, or the person that I'm married to, or the, whatever that is. I'm able to stay at my current level of earnings because of this job or whatever it is. But they're kind of, there's a feeling in there that they're not sure how long it's going to take before that starts to break down. And honestly, with this Eight of Fire, it feels like they expect it to break down sooner rather than later. So that is a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling for them. But by the same token, they feel like they are going to be able to make the best of it in this. There's kind of an interesting feeling. It's like they're super strong until they're not, and then all of a sudden everything breaks. So it's almost a false sense of security, and they almost know that. That's the thing that really gets me. With the Five of Wind here, the way that it's presenting and the way that it feels here, even though, so sometimes it's in the upright, sometimes it's in the reverse, I get this feeling, but what it feels like here is kind of good energy thrown after bad to a certain degree. So we know there's a struggle going on over here, and here's somebody that is using a lot of their energy inefficiently because they're kind of pushing against themselves. And this is them saying, well, if I'm not getting resolution, I'm going to push harder. But of course, since they're creating an equal and opposite push within themselves, it just means they've got to put forth a lot more energy, because as much as they're willing to move forward, they're equally willing to ensure that something does not move forward that terrifies them. And there's this sense of the universe not pushing them forward. The universe isn't pushing them forward because they do not yet have something mastered that they need to master. With this Nine of Fire, it's that lack of mastery. So I feel like Eight of Earth in the reverse here, with the lack of like self-mastery, lack of emotional self-mastery that comes from having a lot of boundaries and walls up that are basically, they're protecting this wall that does not need to be protected. That's kind of what comes in with that Nine of Fire. And that's why the universe is not urging them forward to make a decision or get off of their seat. So they're sitting at this crossroads, and they're just kind of in this seat, and they're not necessarily picking a direction or moving, and they don't have to, but they're not in a comfortable place. So this is more of that same lesson that we've seen sometimes in the past of getting comfortable or finding comfort in a situation that does not necessarily offer a ton of comfort. Okay, more fire. We've got a lot of fire here. So fire, 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 fire. And then fire. So the Father of Fire in reverse is about control, but it's about wanting control over something that kind of crumbles when you hold on to it. It's wanting something to happen the way that you want it to happen and having very little flexibility for anything else. Sometimes we'll hear people term that as my way or the highway. It's got a little bit of that sense in there. That's part of how they're going to resolve, or that's how we know that they're expending too much energy and that they're pushing even harder, which causes them to utilize even more energy, which means they have less to offer in the struggle over here. They have less oomph to give this argument. And so this my way or the highway approach allows them to say, I'm not going to accept anything that doesn't fit some very narrow parameters. So you're going to find them being kind of inflexible, I guess, is the way that it feels, but inflexible because they are trying to protect themselves. You've got the Three of Water here. So part of what's going to fall apart is everything that they're trying too hard to control feels like it's going to kind of fall apart on them. And in this case, part of this thing that helps to keep them feel stable, they're going to do some damage to it with this self-destructive behavior that is fairly irreparable and that they're going to have to deal with. So they may end up having to walk away from this job, this marriage, this family member, whatever the situation is. And I feel like that's going to be, it will not immediately be cathartic. At first, it will be just a ton of fear. But by the same token, there's this feeling, so ever since they came together with you, and we know this from the 10 of Cups lesson, ever since they came together with you, they've been wondering what if. They've also, we know from the 9 of Earths, the 9 of Pentacles that comes up, and sometimes the Empress, they're also in the energetic realm very much utilizing you for a source of energy and for a source of support. That is, you're also a bit of a source of love. And so you're somebody that really helps to buoy them up. Even if you haven't been in communication, their memories of you are part of what keeps them going in a certain way. And it, of course, they're able to compartmentalize that and hold it separately from everything else that has happened. But there's something about that helps to hold them up. And so I think one of the things that we're seeing is we're asking what's happening and what's in their heart and in their mind. We're not seeing a ton about what's happening in their heart and their mind around you. This is kind of the beginning of us seeing that. And I feel like as we get farther into this, as we get in, we don't have a ton of cards to put down for this question still. So I think we'll take that one into the extended. And it's really, how are they feeling about you? What are their actions towards you likely to be as a result of this? I think that's where I want to take that in the extended. But first, let's go ahead and finish this one up, see what else wants to come out as far as what's happening in their mind. It just, as it came out, I was like, oh, you know what we haven't heard a ton of is more about this. Like, tell us about the emotions around you. They're afraid to move forward. That's a big piece of what's in them right now. Afraid to move forward, just like we see over here. Afraid to commit and move forward and do anything. It's like they're going to have to destroy things with this third party before they're able to move in a direction that is supportive of the two of you. So that's important. That's telling. Let's see what it is. When we get into the extended, we're going to look to see how they feel about you, what those emotions are like. Here, though, before we get into the extended, we're going to look at where your focus ought to be. So this is a question that we ask pretty much in every reading. Okay, so tell us about you. Okay, that one fell face down. Because this is one of the reasons that a lot of you are here. It's not always about this other person. Sometimes it's, okay, I've got a host of lessons in front of me. Which one should I be focusing on right now? What's the moral of today's story? So we've got justice, we've got finding balance, and this feels very much like finding balance in the middle of, like, in the eye of a hurricane. because there may be a lot going on around you. And so it's finding balance despite all of that. And just the moment here or there to take a nice deep breath and just not have to, not put yourself in a position to get more tightly wound, you know. It's an opportunity to open things up for yourself a little bit. And then we also have the Five of Cups. This is about, instead of just like with the Five of Cups, you see the person that's focusing on the sadness, and there's a heavy, sad, shameful element to this card. In the reverse, it does have some of this positivity back here. So when we look at it, these cups that are upright and this lighthouse in the background, they have all of this potential for something positive going forward. But here, when you have this card come out in the reverse, it feels like being able to, take all of those things into consideration. That's balance once again. And with this moon in the reverse, this is new information coming to light, but not just that. It's more about you also knowing how to process that new information that comes to light. So it's not like you're just going to magically know. It's okay. You're going to listen to what happens in your prayers. You're going to listen to what happens in your meditation to determine what it is that happens when this information comes to you. You say, okay, so then what do I do with it? You don't just take the information. So it's about, how can I best process this? How can I best use this? How can I take this and make it the best for everyone? With the Strength card, you may feel a little bit concerned about your ability to bring things into balance, but it's more because your focus needs to be on the long game. It's not necessarily going to be an instant gratification type of situation. And here with the Mother of Fire in the reverse, there's an element of not, make sure that you're true to yourself, because that's almost like it reminds me of the Ace of Wands the Ace of Swords in the reverse, where there's something that it's not so much that you're lying to yourself or you want to lie to yourself, but there's something that you're having a hard time facing. You're encouraged, just like with yesterday's reading, to really dig in there. And then we've got the Six of Wind in the reverse, which feels a lot like the wind, like you remember I said it was in the middle of a hurricane, that you're looking to find this balance. That Six of Wind feels a little bit like the winds don't slow down around you. And the Ten of Wind, this is what I was waiting for. That kind of feels like the energy of, here's what you're resolving. So you're being told to go ahead and dip into it to resolve as much as possible. But then my question is like, okay, what are you resolving? And you're resolving kind of this old pain that comes from way before this person. This is that feeling of ancient pain. You're going deep with your resolution, which we saw in yesterday's video. All right. I keep dropping cards, but they're not face up. They're not meant to be used as part of the reading. So we've got the Six of Water here. Six of Water is a nostalgic feeling, but it's about using what you know from the past. It's like that recognition card. And then we've got the Devil that feels like it's coming out a little bit in the upright and a little bit in the reverse. And indeed, it came out a little sideways. Maybe I'll keep it that way. It's about finding out what those things are that are still limiting you and still holding you back. And this really harkens back to yesterday's reading. Figuring out what those things are and just kind of getting a better look at them. You're not necessarily resolving anything with this energy, but it does put you in a position to be able to resolve something because it changes your view of it. It gives you a different perspective on some of the things that may have been holding you back. Okay, and here with the Hierophant. So yesterday, at one point, I think it was in the extended, you got the Hierophant in the reverse saying everything that people are telling you, whether it's me or other readers or other people that you go to for advice, take them out of the picture for a second and think about it. Now, with this one, I want you to put it back in and think about, what is the body of wisdom that is coming your way? Are you being told to primarily work on yourself and walk away from this? Are you being told something like, what is that collective wisdom trying to tell you? That now it's a matter of, okay, let's think about it. Not necessarily that you're going to take it and follow it blindly. Like, I would never recommend that. But I would say, is there something that these people are trying to tell you that it may be tough for you to hear, or it may be tough for you to process because of that feeling of the strength in reverse, because of this feeling that the winds never slow down, you know? Is it just too hard to look at some of these things and you just want comfort right now? Where are those pieces where you're willing to be patient in your healing to make sure that you're willing to get it right, versus those places where maybe you're less likely to be patient in that way? And then we've got the Sister of Earth, which kind of reinforces that message, but talks about lessons that you've not yet resolved, things that you're still in the process of learning, but that you may be trying very hard to avoid. And with this Nine of Water, it kind of feels like you're going to find a direct link between the things that you're trying to avoid and the happiness that you're seeking. Although sometimes, again, those messages aren't necessarily, those linkages aren't happy linkages, because it may be you have to stop doing something that you're addicted to in order to find happiness. You may have to, in order to find resolution, stop overthinking things that is it gives you comfort to overthink in some way, or that's your comfort zone, not necessarily that the overthinking gives you comfort. So look for a place that you may be standing in your own way. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and get into the extended, and we're going to look a little bit more into this person's emotions around you and just kind of what is happening there. So we got a sense of what was happening in their mind. There's a lot of conflict, but I could see it winning out such that they do communicate to you in an unhealed way. Once again, we often see that that kind of concept. But what does that mean? What does that mean for how they're feeling about you? Because one of the things we see here is how supported they are by your very energy. So we'll look a little bit more into their feelings about you, as well as what they're likely to do as a result of those feelings. So we get into the extended. The link is down below if you'd like to follow me there. And I would love to see you. Otherwise, I'll see you again in tomorrow's reading.